In this video, we are going to see how to create a Google Sheet for daily reporting of a bank or a Nidhi or any finance related work. So over here, I've already created a sheet. First, I'll show you how to use the sheet, and later on, I'll show you the formulas that we have used in the sheet. So let's start. Over here, we have taken date, branch, opening and closing balance, member or the employee name, any batch number that you have. So share number and share amount are precisely for Nidhi, daily collection, FD, RD, saving, and total credit. So basically any amount, so this from share amount to saving are the amount that are credited to our bank. Basically to a, we can say to a Nidhi as well. So amount that you're collecting from your customers is a credit. After that, we have a total credit wherein we are calculating the total amount that is collected from these five segments. Later on, if we go ahead, we are having another five segments that is loan, HO transfer, withdrawal, maturity, expenses. So basically, loan is an amount that you give to your customers on a particular interest rate. HO transfer is basically if you're having any head office or if you transfer an amount from your one branch to another, that is considered from a transfer under transfer. Withdrawal is an amount that is withdrawn by your customers. Maturity amount is the amount that after for an example, if your customer is booking an FD with you of 5,000 rupees for an year on certain interest rate, we won't go deep into calculations. So after an year, you have to give say to your customer as 6,000 rupees back. So the maturity amount is 6,000, and after 1 year, the amount will be added onto this tab. Expenses, any expenses that have been done at the branch level or overall expense that you do for your bank or Nidhi that are calculated under it. It can be stationery, it can be furniture, it can be traveling expense of the employees, it can be salary of the employees, and the total for this five segments will be considered as total debit. Now let's add the data and understand how we'll get the calculations done and the final report. So the very important part is date field. If you miss out adding the date of any entry that you're doing, opening closing balance will not be calculated. So it is mandatory to add date for each entry that you're doing. Whether you're doing 100 entries in a day, for each entry you'll have to add the today's date or the whatever date it is. So we'll add today's date, branch name. Let's understand this is the very first day of the bank or the Nidhi, and we are having an opening balance of 0 rupees. So, opening balance will be 0. By default, closing balance is showing us 0 because we haven't done any entries. We'll add the employee name. Let's say I'm adding a name, Anisha, the employee. Batch number, as of now, I'm keeping blank because I'm just showing a test entry. If you require the columns, you can add the data. If you don't, you can remove the columns. Anisha for today has brought an amount to the bank or the Nidhi of share amount of 100 rupees. So 100 rupees shares were given to a particular customer. Daily collection she has done of 10,000 rupees. FD, RD and savings she hasn't done anything. So we'll keep it as blank. So over here the total credit amount is calculated, that is 10,000 plus 100, 10,100 rupees. Let's move ahead. Uh, Along with that, Anisha has done an expense of 200. They consider it as a uh, expense for the stationery items when she gave share certificate and the stamp and everything like that. Any expense of 200 rupees for the particular employee that has been bared by the company. So now the total credit is 10,100 rupees and the total debit is 200. So ideally, the amount that is remaining with the bank or the Nidhi is 9,900 rupees. Okay, that should be the closing balance. We'll come back to the closing balance. Over here, you can see 9,900 is auto calculated. Let's move ahead and add one more entry. I'm again adding the date. for today. I'm considering it in the same branch as A. Now, opening balance for a new entry will be the closing balance of the prior entry. Okay, so it by default came as 9,900. Let's go ahead. I'm adding the name Priyanka, and she has done an RD of 1,000 rupees, and there were no debit. So now the closing balance will be 9,900 plus 1,000, that is 10,900 rupees. I hope adding the data in the sheet is clear. Now let's understand the formulas that are added. Okay, the very first formula that I've added is the opening balance formula. I have kept the very first cell as 0, so there is no formula. It is by default as 0. If you want, you can put a certain amount. Now let's check the formula that are for the other cells added. I've added a if formula. So if A3 cell is blank, that is the date cell is blank, then the opening balance should be blank. But if the A cell is not blank and a date is added over there, then it should take the value of the prior cell in row in D column. So D2, as this is A3 and this is D2. So this formula is added every in cell. Let's understand the closing balance. So closing balance, uh, we have used the same if formula. We have checked if the date cell has a value. If it does not have a value, the closing balance will be blank. If it has a value, the closing balance will be calculated as C2 plus M2 minus S2. So C2 is the opening balance plus M2 is the total credit and minus is the S2, that is total debit. So what is closing balance? Closing balance is opening balance plus total credit minus total debit. And this formula is added for all the cells of closing balance. In a similar way, as these five cells should be a sum of for total credit, we have added sum formula, and these five cells should be the total debit sum. So we have added a sum formula and total debit. I hope this sheet was easy to understand, and let me know if you have any queries in the comment section below.